This episode is sponsored by Raycon. More on that at the end.
Ever had one of those nights that starts out like any other but ends up being the best night of your life?
Technically, he's talking about the night when they were kids, but the truth is that this night, the night the movie is about, did end up being one of the best nights of Gary's life because he reunited with his old friends and then swiftly replaced them with their younger selves, getting to live out his days exactly as he wanted to.
They called me the King because my name's Gary King.
You've probably noticed some of the Knights of the Round Table references, but along with Gary's last name being King, all his friends are also on theme. A chamberlain manages the household of a monarch and he becomes a real estate agent. A page is a knight in training and Peter is the young one they protect. Princes are next in line after the king, but more importantly, meaning the king always gets first pick. And Knightley, well, Andy's loyal to the end and he does most of the fighting to protect the king.
We called him O-Man because he had a birthmark on his forehead that looked like a 6. He loved it. I think he saw us as rivals. Sweet, really.
And it's made clear right away that Gary is not viewed by his friends the way he views himself. It's laid on so thick it makes him unlikable, which we see by the end is deliberate. Even on the map, the world's end is dark and ominous.
12 pubs along a legendary path.
See what I mean about the Arthurian stuff?
Our destiny, the world's end.
I feel like at this point, 3 movies in, Edgar and Simon have let go of being sneaky about revealing the whole story in the beginning because everyone expects it. So instead, they made the entire movie around a planned out night. If you didn't think this movie would end with the end of the world, you haven't been paying attention to the Cornetto trilogy. Even the seats they sit in the Beast are the same as later on. Obviously, everything that happens in these quick scenes happens again, but let's take them one at a time so we can enjoy the majesty. And if you're wondering why the flashback sequence is grainy and flashy with crappy tracking, it's because it was shot on a 16mm hand crank camera to give it an old-timey, in-the-past feeling.
Everyone got power and Pete chucked a whitey, so we had to bench him.
Had to look it up, it's what the Brits call it when you smoke too much and can't keep it together.
We blew off the last 3 pubs and headed for the hills.
Skipping the last 3 pubs is the only part that doesn't happen, so technically this is the one time that the earlier setup doesn't line up perfectly. Again, deliberately flipping the script, getting all meta on us. And there's the alien ship coming to Earth. Daniel Kaluuya extra? Probably not, but that's Bloody Mary from Shaun. Simple visual exposition to show that everyone else has grown up and Gary is still stuck in the past.
We haven't changed, have we?
And Edgar always making those news headlines foreshadowing. Not that there's any question who it was, but you can see Gary when you go frame by frame.
I'm afraid the end is nigh.
The end is nigh.
You want to try that again?
Yeah, isn't that something you've always wanted?
Not particularly, no.
Honesty. Nice to see Tina from Flappers and Andy Cartwright finally got together.
Never know. You might make it to the end this time.
Aw, he doesn't.
You have a friend here to see you.
No, I don't.
Friendship burn. Just realizing that everyone except Gary is introduced in the beginning in an 80s font and he uses all their nicknames. Ollie, Pete, Steve, and Andy. Then they're introduced again as adults with their full name in a more adult font. Oliver, Peter, Steven, and Andrew. Gary doesn't get either introduction, but Gary isn't a nickname, meaning he can't grow up and use his full name.
What are you doing? I'm showing you the door.
Just gonna pile a little praise on top of Nick Frost, who doesn't usually get serious roles and you'd never know it if this was your first Nick Frost movie.
They'll be putting that on Gary's tombstone.
No, they won't, you know. He'll outlive us all.
Well, at least you and Peter.
Wheels, paneling, carburetor, manifold, whole engine really, mirrors, headlamps. Other than that, she's the same old motor.
So it's less about him never having a job and never having the money for a new car, and it's way more about clinging to the past than it is being frugal.
Just like the 5 Musketeers.
3 Musketeers, isn't it?
Anyway, 5 sounds much better. I think they missed the trick only having 3, because if they'd had 5, then 2 could have died and they still have 3 left.
Friend death shadowing.
Does anyone know what Gary's doing?
He's playing Need for Speed over there.
I love how Andy has just been staring in that direction the entire time they've been talking, and you assume he's just staring into space, but he's actually fuming as his worst presuppositions about Gary are confirmed.
Take a moment to look upon it in its original colors, boys. For tonight, we paint it red.
There's more blue than red, but I think I get what you're saying.
Why are we even here?
We are here to get annihilated.
Odd, the number of similarities between a night out drinking and death or killing, which works out nicely for the movie.
One night, 5 guys, 12 pubs. Let battle commence. Have a crack at the old Golden Mile. Might get a bit messy.
Where a weary traveler might get swatted.
Landlady Marcia Klein / Yvonne's mom / 53-year-old Mary Porter is probably really confused to see that Tim / Sean / Nicholas clearly gave up on being an artist / salesman / policeman officer and is now just a full-time Sisters of Mercy fanboy? And there's one of the first hints that Newton Haven is trying to make everyone a little more civil. You know Peter Serafinowicz would be one to just go along with the aliens and be one of the last few humans left in town.
This building was the site of Newton Haven's first post office.
Which not only makes the name, The First Post, make sense, it also plays into the real shooting problem they had when making the movie that the towns they liked for Newton Haven were both designed by Quakers and lacked the amount of pubs needed.
Sorry, can we have 4 of those and a tap water, please?
What?
I mean, appropriate reaction on a pub crawl, but yeah, some more evidence that Gary is living in denial and essentially pretending like the accident didn't happen.
A man of your legendary prowess drinking in rain.
Good old Edgar quick cuts interrupted by Andy's water.
To kids, wherever they may be.
Pete's not really into toasting to kids.
You know from that Shakespeare play?
A Winter's Tale.
Yeah. What was it called?
A Winter's Tale.
That's it.
I know I probably don't need to keep building the case that Gary is a self-involved narcissist, but his selective memory is a huge part of it. It's not that he's secretly a blank, it's that he's barely ever listening to anyone else.
Has,
Vanessa?
No, your wife.
Vanessa?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd have to check with Vanessa.
Who's Vanessa?
My wife.
What's your new number?
The same one I've had for 10 years.
Yeah, what's that one?
You have a very selective memory, Gary.
Thanks. Wow, you really have a selective memory, don't you? Somebody else was saying that.
Me?
No, I would have remembered. Oh, yes, this is more like it.
Deja vu.
Hey now, the light fixtures are different. Not only is Gary the only one that doesn't get up when the lady enters, something Knights of the Round should all do, he even leans back as confirmation that he sucks.
Because you did the school play.
Cabaret.
Cabaret. Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome.
That's cabaret.
Oh, yeah, I believe this is yours.
Out of order.
Signage burn. Simon has a way with getting to the other sides of things.
Maybe we're not the local legends you think we are.
Gary King.
Speak for yourself, mate.
You're bard.
Appropriate that his one memory of the famous cock is the bartender giving him a red card. Devotion?
Good job.
My wife wanted us to go organic. The problem is I kind of like eating.
Some little hints why she may have left, and notice that he's talking about her in past tense. Match cut.
What's bike?
What do you mean?
What's bike stand for?
Bicycle.
I'm lost.
Don't be. I'm lost.
Don't be.
Ah, Bilbo flipping that one right back around on Reaper Cheap. It's the same series, right? At first I was thinking he would have killed a human with that move, but it turns out the urinals are pretty fragile.
Do you know who I just spoke to? What are you doing? Your mum. She said she hadn't spoken to you for 8 months.
Right, because he had been admitted to a psychiatric hospital. And using the hand dryer to cover the noise of the fight checks out because it's all about not making a fuss or upsetting anyone. And here we go with a signature Edgar Wright long take, during a fight scene no less. Character continuity.
It's not even that he forced me to spend entire lessons hiding in a toilet cubicle.
That doesn't always work out. You know, I'd expect more from Baji. I've seen him do a lot better. Now we're talking. Tight takedown. There's a very Matthew Vaughn's Kingsman handheld feeling to this whole fight scene, which makes sense since the DP from Kingsman also worked on Children of Men, a movie Edgar said he was emulating here. And that's cool. But oh, that's the P Gary slipped on.
What the f does WTF mean? What the f? Oh.
Acronym lessons.
Must be the network.
It is. Just one that's run by Bill Nye. Listen, that's him on the phone.
That's gonna look suspicious.
Gay loving.
And that's worse than 5 dismembered bodies. This is Newton Haven.
Yeah, just like in...
Separate Gloucestershire.
Even Sam's signage burn from earlier gets used to their advantage. By the way, he did say...
What are you talking about? You gave me the sign.
And then she does.
We've got blood on our hands. It's more like ink.
Not to be confused with Dr. Ink.
You know, Doctor...
Drink, I get it.
Drink up. Let's boo-boo.
Now I have to give Nick even more credit because he's funny as the straight man. The network logo is everywhere. And it's a really economical use of extras to work it into the story that they're all the same ones doing their predetermined genome soldier paths. Gary in the middle with his sad friends all around. 2 walking across the screen transition wipes less than 8 seconds apart. Actually, this feels like as good a time as any to point out that Edgar barely ever cuts from one scene to the next without these seamless transitions. I had counted 17 at this point, but there's probably triple that. Garth Jennings just cannot keep himself out of Edgar Wright films.
Drinking. Beer. Pubs. Shall we?
This little smile from Andy. Also, they did this too.
Pint 6 put O-Man out of commission.
The first time they lost Oliver after the 6th pint, and it's no different this time.
I need the toilet.
Why do you think he needed to go to the toilet?
What if he's one of them?
No, me and the Reverend had a highly sophisticated code when discussing the purchase of herbal narcotics.
As if the sign was made specifically for Reverend Green, just like this one, which is him. Literally.
Have you got any drugs?
drugs.
Can't believe Gary remembered that sophisticated code after all these years.
It's not what you think. This is for all our benefit.
And you know they're powerful if they got tires to stop partying.
Robot actually comes from an old Czech word, robotnik, meaning slave.
Vocab lesson that's true. See, you can hear the hand dryer running again as Blank Ollie exits and OG Reverend Green enters. But just in case you didn't believe me, Oliver is all cleaned up, seems sober, his 6 is back, and you'll notice that his Bluetooth is just perpetually blinking now, even though we know none of them has cell service since he's connected to the network. The network even replaced Banksy.
Crowning glory. Rather fitting.
Crowning glory. Rather fitting.
Hoppy, nutty, foamy.
Is it nutty? Is it foamy? Is it hoppy?
Does it have a surprisingly fruity note that lingers on the tongue?
Does it have a surprisingly fruity note which lingers on the tongue?
You're obviously a connoisseur.
That's the best laugh ever.
We need different terms. One for people that aren't robots, and one for robots who aren't robots.
And of course, none of them notices at first. They're all annihilated. Ah, some double shadowing.
Robots.
And I think we should get away from the whole robots thing.
You would want that, you robot.
Probably just trying to f Oliver's system.
And me.
He's only slightly put off now. Starting to realize all the signs in the town are right on message.
Chuck us a ciggy.
Simon and Edgar are never coy about Gary being an awful dude. There's no real redemption arc for him other than admitting he's awful.
There's nothing between me and Gary King.
Ah, the old double entendre. Only a 4-legged twin robot between them. Huh?
Sorry.
That was actually pretty great timing. I'm honestly super impressed by the choreography. Some of these action scenes give me Jackie Chan feels, if maybe slowed down a tad.
Nothing suggested in the last 3 minutes has been better than Smashy Smashy Eggman.
Not to mention their naming proficiency.
So f it.
Now Nick's back. Doesn't even slow down after smashing through the glass.
Good plan, old man. Hey, keep an eye out for blanks.
First, Blanks is obviously the superior name for alien robots. Second, I love that the more obvious it becomes that Oliver is one, Gary just called him O-Man and he went along with it, the drunker they all are, so they missed the obvious clues. You can see Basil opening the door behind Steve before he snatches him.
I have so much to live for.
Would you also say you have so much to give?
Oh, crumbs.
2 things here. I enjoy that Sam has the most random catchphrase.
All right, Sam.
Oh, crumbs. Oh, crumbs, you're heavy. Oh, crumbs.
And second, just like the first night, she tags along from the 2-headed dog to the Mermaid Club.
Hey, Sam. How's life?
Ah, it's Bill Nighy again, and he's got the network logo on his jacket. The school disco poster is all blanks with their glowing eyes.
Wait a minute. 1990 model Oliver was out of commission by this point in the evening. I like the new you!
More confirmation of what I was saying earlier. Gary is noticing there's a difference and he's still too self-involved to care. Or maybe he's just had a few too many beers. I can say from personal experience that this movie is not that realistic because after as many as they've had, you wouldn't care about robots taking over. Especially if you used today's sponsor Raycon and got some of their premium wireless earbuds to drown out the robot invasion. Okay, nothing works perfectly when the robots are this cute, but if you haven't heard of Raycon, they're making these awesome earbuds in a bunch of fun colors and patterns for half the price of other premium earbuds. Melissa Etheridge, Mike Tyson, and my new favorite Raycon user, Jake Livermore, all love them. Even O-Man would love them since there's no stems, nothing dangling down. Click my link at the top of the description below, buy raycon.com/cinemawins to get 15% off your order. The everyday E25 earbuds are their best model yet, with seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, 6 hours of playtime, all with a super comfortable noise isolating fit. And they have a 45-day free return policy since they know you'll love them. So check out my link in the description to save 15% off your Raycon purchase. It's a huge help to the channel, and I always appreciate it. Well, hello there. Thanks for sticking through the ad. Next week will be part 2 of The World's End, and don't worry, we're going to talk about all kinds of things like the meanings of the names of each pub and the numbers that show up, and maybe even talk about some themes like, you know, people who can't grow up, but also have trauma, friendship, and all kinds of stuff. And then the week after, I'm trying something new, and it's actually the first part of 3 parts. So hopefully the first one doesn't fail spectacularly, but it won't be all 3 right in a row. It'll be spaced out with other things in between. So look forward to that. I'll see you next week.